Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you should happen to find this. This is the Quote of Arms podcast where we talk about our favorite tribes and what makes them so special. This is the Unsummoned Skull, your host with the most. I'm joined today with.
Hello, everybody. My name is Zephram. I am a sad college student, and I am a bear enthusiast who plays Magic the Gathering with J-Ro at least once a week.
Yeah, we play on the skull symbol, which and usually play on streams that are at twitch.tv/unsummoned skull. One of those decks that you have used to grace Mono Green Mondays is.
My bear deck, headed by Iola the Queen among bears. Now, bears are my favorite tribe in Magic the Gathering, right up there with dragons. It's tied. And bears have, it's really divisive when you try and ask a Magic the Gathering player what exactly a bear is, because there are multiple definitions in Magic the Gathering, because we can never agree on jargon. It's like asking two different Australians from two different parts of Australia what exactly Australian slang means. So, J-Ro, how do you think you would identify what a bear is, or define a bear?
So, bear in Magic jargon usually refers to a creature with mana value 2, with power and toughness 2, that may or may not have an ability.
That is probably the loosest definition of the term, and it's a very good one. Bears are usually the benchmark for something being good on a vanilla scale. So that's a ratio of its power and toughness to its mana value. When you call something a bear in Magic the Gathering, you're calling it a 2/2 that casts for 2. Bears have always been an archetype in Magic the Gathering, from creature type to the definition that Jeremy has said. There's a famous archetype called hate bears, where they use bears, 2/2s for 2, with taxing effects or restrictory effects that make you hate them. That's at least my understanding of why they're called hate bears. It's because you hate them and the people playing them.
It's kind of the opposite usually in terms of how it's interpreted, where the hatred is what's being expressed towards a given deck or strategy. So it's a way
to... Well, and then I think it can go both ways.
Yeah, it can. Because the people who play that strategy certainly hate the card, and the people who are playing the card are doing so because they hate the strategy. Mutual hate is something that breeds quite a lot of good contention, like Michigan, Ohio State, or Central Michigan, Western Michigan.
Those are two things I'm directly affected by.
Oh, I am as well. My mom, my dad, my sister all went to University of Michigan, and I went to Central.
I'm sorry, Jeremy. We can't be friends. I go to Western.
That's okay. I presented at a conference.
I'm literally wearing my Western T-shirt right now.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah. Well, it's been a wonderful podcast, everyone. Jeremy, I will one day dance on your grave in my Western Michigan brown and gold.
I mean, my high school was also brown and gold.
Okay, that's fair.
It's kind of funky.
Sorry. Too many tangents. Jeremy and I can, J-Ro, can talk about our deep-seated hatred for each other later.
That's all right. We understand there's going to be enough tangents that we could probably fill Quandrix with fractals.
Speaking of, that is a very good, Quandrix is a very good gateway into my next segment, actually. We've defined what a bear is. That's what a bear is on the stats, but a bear is also a creature type in Magic the Gathering that, as listeners of this podcast will probably know what tribes are and, what creature type tribes are. Bears are probably my favorite creature type with dragons. They're both my favorite. And there are 3 commanders that will allow you to have a full bear deck. 3 legendary bears that you can use. There's one that is my favorite, Iola, Queen among bears. There's one that's honestly not that good for bears, and we can talk about that later. Goraclaw, Terror of Calcisma. And in Strixhaven, we had a new bear commander be released, who's actually good for bears. Their name is Ruxa Patient Professor. They are coincidentally part of the Quandrix College. And, well, I think we should talk about why they are a good potential for bears.
So I'm going to start with the one that is the worst so we can understand, okay, what is it about that doesn't work with the identity of bears?
Okay, that's a good way to do it. So then let's talk about Goreclaw, the Terror of Calcisma. Creature spells you cast with power 2 or with power 4 or greater cost 2 less to cast. Whenever Goreclaw, Terror of Calcisma attacks, each creature you control with power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 and trample until end of turn. She is a 4/3, and she casts for 3 and a green. So yes, she does affect herself with that ability. So when she attacks, she becomes a 5/4 with trample. Now, Goreclaw is not a good commander for bears. She is an amazing bear. Like, if you play Goreclaw in your deck, in your bear deck, you're probably going to have a fun time. But the issue with Goreclaw is that she does not mechanically represent bears. Bears are, again, 2/2s for 2, so that doesn't really check the power 4 or greater. There are only like 3 or 4 bears total in Magic the Gathering that have power 4 or greater, not counting the the changelings. So like Chameleon Colossus, it would count, but it doesn't even have any tribal synergies with bears, which is what I like, and a lot of other tribal players like. They like to have their creature tribes have synergies with each other. So, the commanders have synergy with the tribe. Goreclaw just isn't able to pull that off because the identity of bears is kind of swarming the field and having some decent buff blockers. But the bears don't get buff on their own. Bears get buff via other effects. Base power, they're still relatively kind of weak. They're just 2/2s. It is only until you get buffers out there, like another commander we'll talk about later called Iola, Queen Among Bears, who's my favorite, that they really get to their full potential. So, Goreclaw, she is a good team pusher. She is great at buffing team and kind of getting through with that final push. She's actually one of the win conditions for my Iola Queen Among Bears deck. She is a great lieutenant, but she's not a good commander.
And Goreclaw is more of a stompy commander than a bear commander.
Yes, I've seen a phenomenal green stompy deck with her that actually squashed one of my decks before, my Shrines deck, and it was really scary. It was very good, but that cheapening effect, insane. That pump effect, that's amazing. You just give things trample, but it's just not good for bears because bears don't get that big on their own. Now, Ruxa, he is really good for bears because bears are 2/2s for 2. They don't have many abilities usually. You'll get bears like Ashcoat Bear or River Bear or Striped Bear that have effects when they enter the battlefield or have effects in-game. But Ruxa hits and checks so many bears with no abilities. For example, let me get this one out. Grizzly Bear, my favorite card in Magic the Gathering, probably. So Grizzly Bears, this is the definition of a bear. It's a 2/2 for 2. It's a 1 and a green, and it's just a very good card. It's the benchmark for the vanilla tactics. The power and toughness to mana value ratio in Magic the Gathering. It is the oldest bear in all of Magic. It was printed in Alpha, and it's my favorite card probably in all of Magic the Gathering because I have killed a lot of people with this card. Just like a sheer number of volume, sheer number of game wins, this has been the killer. I always make sure when I play Grizzly Bears, I'm going to pump this boy. I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket on this man or woman. I'm not going to gender my bears.
So when you are looking into a bear commander, what you're looking for is which one can basically make Grizzly Bear as deadly as it could possibly be.
Yes, you want bears that will buff team, keep them strong, and be able to deal with threats to your bears. That's why Ruxa is very good. They are able to buff your bears without abilities, and also Ruxa is able to buff bear tokens, of which there are a lot of ways to make bear tokens in Magic the Gathering, 2/2 tokens, like that are type bear. He's just very good at that, even though you can't return a token from the graveyard. And whenever Ruxa, Patient Professor, enters the battlefield or attacks, return target creature card with no abilities from your graveyard to your hand. If that does not get rid of threats to your bears, like a kill spell, or a creature that's giving things -1/-1, like -2/-2, like Shield Red. But Ruxa is still able to return your bears from your graveyard, so that's great insurance. They are able to buff your bears, and they're able to basically give what I call super trample, the ability to assign damage as though they weren't blocked at all. That is incredibly good. It's a great pusher, it's a great buffer, and it's great insurance. The only issue with Ruxa is that it's a little slow. It's 4 mana, which isn't the slowest, but it's slower than, in my opinion, the best bear commander.
It also somewhat restricts the amount of bears you can play. Even though it's not by a huge amount, there are only so many that have been printed.
Yes, that's one of the sad points about bears. There haven't been a billion bears like there have been with dragons, one of my other favorite creature types, or humans. There are, actually in my deck, there are only probably 3 bears or 4 bears that have no abilities. Let me just see it real quick. I have the OG, the baby, Grizzly Bears. I have, let me see, Forest Bears. Yes, I spent $30 on a Forest Bear. No, I don't regret spending $30 on a Forest Bear. Stop asking. And Bear Cub, who J-Ro and I have had many disagreements about.
Yeah, trying to figure out how a Bear Cub is the same size as a full-grown Grizzly.
Well, it's because Bear Cub, it also has, well, now that I'm looking at the art in it, there's 2 explanations. One, Bear Cub is probably a 1/1, and it's looking at a bee. And the bee is, in the art on Bear Cub, we've seen insects in Magic the Gathering be usually 1/1s. So combined together, when they're working together, like in Spyro, the video game, they're a 2/2. So Bear Cub is a 2/2. Or it's Bear Cub is just representative of the mother bear standing behind it in the artwork, looking at the person looking at the bear, about to maul them to death for threatening the cub. So there are 2 ways to look at why Bear Cub is so big. Oh, also Alpine Grizzly, which is what I call the strong bear, because it's a 4/2 instead of a 2/2, but it casts for 3. That also has no abilities, and it's from one of my favorite sets, Khans of Tarkir. But I really only have 4 creatures that Ruxa targets in this deck with his return ability, but I have plenty of ways to make bear tokens, like Kamal's Summonings, Iola's Influence, plenty of bear token makers that that Ruxa will be able to help push. And so that's why Ruxa is very good. But I think he's honestly better less as a bear commander and more as a vanilla commander. He's a phenomenal vanilla commander. And he's a good bear commander, don't get me wrong, but and we're about to talk about her. This is why there is sorry, I'm stumbling over my words.
There's a professor, there's a wild bear, but there is only one.
There's only one bear that, in my opinion, is a true bear commander. That is Iola, the Queen among bears. Iola, Queen among bears, is 1 in a green, a legendary creature, bear, has phenomenal artwork, and whenever another bear enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1. You either put 2 +1/+1 counters on target bear, or target bear you control fights another creature you don't control. This is probably my favorite commander, just of all time. It's so fun. it has the ability to buff your bears, and it has the ability to remove your bears, to remove threats to your bears. It's very cheap, and it's sturdy as a 2/2/4/2. Iola is the queen of the bears. She is easily the best bear commander. She's, as Jeremy put it in our first recording session of this podcast, she's the bear's personal trainer, whereas Ruxa is, as his namesake says, he's the patient professor.
Although he's kind of impatient because he just goes around everything, but
yeah, fair. He's able to bore people into sleeping, and then he gets the bears through. I think that's how it works.
And then they find out, and then they get embarrassed, and yeah.
Oh my god. So, Iola is probably the best bear commander, because, in my opinion, bears are the archetypical green creature. They are able to flood the board quickly, they can get big if you want them to, and they're just sturdy, strong boys, or girls, or however they identify. Again, I'm not here to gender your bears.
I wonder what little Timmy would think about that.
Christ. Okay. So, Iola is, as I said, she's just able to protect your bears, and she's able to make them big. Jeremy, you've seen me wield Iola with an iron fist as both control and as aggro.
Yeah, I love the fact that it's modal, because whenever you're like looking back over the game, you can always say, you know what, there's something else I could have done at some point in time. Whether it's targeting a different creature, pumping a different creature, using the fight effect, or fighting something that you didn't think to be a threat at the time. There's always different choices that you could make with it.
Mm-hmm. It's a very, very fun card. It's just phenomenal. I love Iola. When she was spoiled, I immediately started putting a bear list together because I've always wanted to make just a bear deck, and Goreclaw just couldn't cut it.
So, let's be clear. She was revealed. You were the one who spoiled her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That I like that one. Okay, keep that one in post. So, if I can talk about how I build my bear decks, the way I build my bear decks is much different from how other people build their bear decks, because, surprisingly, I actually build my bear decks around a lot of card advantage and card draw. For example, some of my favorite cards I try and ramp as hard as I can in this deck.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my favorite card in this deck that allows me to draw cards and and make mana. It has to be the Great Henge. The Great Henge is just a phenomenal card. So, sorry, let me read it out for you.
Okay.
So, it is a 9 mana spell. It's 7 and 2 green. It's the cycle of legendary artifacts from Eldraine. Mm-hmm. Yes, Eldraine. That's the name of that set. It is so it taps for 2 green, and when you tap it for 2 green, you gain 2 life. It costs X mana less, X generic mana less, where X is equal to the the greatest power among creatures you control. So you're actually able to get this out earlier than you think, especially with Iola being able to buff things. And whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/+1 counter on it and draw a card. This is able to make your bears bigger. It's able to make them better. It allows you to gain life. It allows you to cast a bear just by tapping it, and it lets you draw cards. That is very good for this deck, because in bears, you can gas yourself out very easily. You need to make sure you have card draw effects like Colossal Majesty or Harmonize. And speaking of another card from Eldraine, Return of the Wild Speaker is also good in this deck. It is a 4 and a green instant. Choose one. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control, or non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn.
It's another modal card, and it's an instant, which I love.
Yeah, it's a modal instant, so modal instants are the most versatile spells in the game. It allows you to draw cards, or it allows you to smash faces. It is incredibly good. And there are, and how do I say this? For mana generation, I like to. A lot of my decks are very focused on ramp if they can include green in them or artifacts. So some of the all stars for ramp in this deck are Karametra's Acolyte. She taps for. She's a human druid. She's not a bear, but she is a druid, so she's friends with bears.
Mm.
She is 3 and a green. She taps to add green equal to your devotion, and she's a 1/4. That is incredibly powerful, especially because you'll be flooding the. You'll usually be flooding the board with a lot of green cards, so you're able to get those out there and just be able to make even more mana.
And she's a much cheaper Nyx Lotus or Nykthos trying to Nyx. It's the same effect, but for quite a lot less.
I have both of those cards in this deck, actually. Nyx Lotus and Nykthos. I have a funny story about how I got my Nykthos, which I can tell on at a later time, but another card that is very good in here, and I think is just extremely underrated, is a card called Path of Discovery. It's 3 and a green. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it explores. And to explore, you reveal the top card of your library. Put that card into your hand if it's a land. Otherwise, put a +1/+1 counter on the creature, and then put that card on either the top of your library or the back of your, or the bottom of your library. This deck, if it's headed by Iola, is very focused on ETB effects. The Path of Discovery out, and other ETB things like the Great Henge or Panharmonicon to double everything. Panharmonicon we'll talk about later and why it's amazing. It just it goes very hard. It allows you to filter and it allows you to buff. It's incredibly good. One big shout out, Growing Rites of Itlimoc is very good for a bear deck. It's 2 and a green. It's an enchantment, legendary. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the creature or land. Sorry. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And at the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more creatures, you transform it. It transforms into a Gaia's Cradle. That is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, considering how expensive Gaia's Cradle is, but also one of the things I'm noticing is a theme between all those different cards is the theme of Unbounded Mana. So,
yes,
they are able to increase exponentially and provide an incredible boost rather than some of the small jumps like going from 2 to 6 or going from, say, 4 to 8. Just huge jumps in the amount of mana production that your deck has. And presumably you would have ways to fill that mana. So
yes. So the reason why I like having so much mana and card draw in these decks in this deck is so that I can play all my bears, and that with that I feel it's just archetypal of what green represents. Green represents stuff like nature and the wilds and things, and in that is bounty of strength and mana. It is primal strength. That's what green is to me as a color, and things like the Great Henge, or Karametra's Acolyte, or Growing Rites of Itlimoc, they all represent that strength in bears. It's able to be able to get ahead on resources and card advantage very quickly. It is a very, very fun archetype to play, and the reason why green is the most busted color in Commander.
There's also the resilience element. Because Iola is so cheap, what often happens to her?
Iola does often get killed. She is the powerhouse of the deck. The deck cannot really happen that well without her. But she is able to be recasted because she's so cheap. You kill her, okay, I play her again next turn for just 4 mana. Your commander costs 6 mana, so I'm still ahead. It's a very powerful card that is very cheap and has so much good synergy.
The only part that sort of goes against that would be that for you to be able to create the unbounded mana, you need to have things that are out. If the things are out, but she isn't, then that means you lost some value there. So if somebody's thinking of,
Yes.
okay, this deck seems really, really powerful, what would the weakness be? That would be a weakness, I would think.
Another big weakness of this deck, just in the way that I have built it, and this is something that can happen often when I'm building my decks. I can sometimes make them with Achilles heels by accident. For example, if you're able to constantly lock down Iola, like you're able to. Oh, there's a spell that says target spell can't be cast. It was from Avacyn. That is a good way to lock down this deck,
Yeah,
because
there's a
without
few of
Iola, the
them.
deck
There's
is going to suffer horribly.
We talked about hate
Uh,
bears. There's a hate bear Draneth Magistrate that basically shuts down commanders.
Draneth Magistrate, or as I like to call it, the card everyone hates.
Yep. Well, it is a hate bear. It might as well, right?
Yeah, it is. Draneth Magistrate is probably the most powerful hate bear in Commander, I would say, just because of the format that is Commander and how it's structured.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I would say that it is the most egregious hate bear.
Yeah, because you'll get very powerful ones like Gaddock Teague, who is a green and a white. I forgot, is it mana value 3 or mana value 4?
4, I believe.
Creatures with mana value 3 or 4.
It's non-creatures.
What'd you say?
Gaddock Teague affects non-creatures and non-creatures with 4 or greater and non-creatures with X. It doesn't affect creatures.
Oh, okay, yeah. So Gaddock Teague, he's a very famous hate bear because he's able to shut down all of your big spells. He's able to, oh, you want a Brain Geyser? No, you don't. Or, oh, hey, you want to play your Time Warp? No, you can't. He's just, Gaddock Teague is an honorary bear, in my opinion, because white is also a good color for bears, just because of the token synergies that can happen in white.
He's a hate bear, not a bear.
Well, yeah, he's not that big, but he is kind of hairy. Bears, they are archetypal in the amount that they can flood a board and the amount that they can overpower you. But if you're able to get good creature removal or lock down Iola, then yeah, you're able to kind of hit the deck in its Achilles heel.
Even if you're only able to keep it down for certain periods of time, if the Iola player is not getting the extra value off of the bears entering the battlefield, then you're really just playing a subpar green deck. Which, I mean,
exactly.
Subpar green is still better than some things. Okay, I don't want to piss off Peter too much by saying mono white, but still.
Yes, the guy we stream with sometimes, the guy that J-Ro streams with, Peter, also goes by Mono White, literally just plays Mono White decks. It's surprising how good he can make them, in all honesty. Don't take that the wrong way,
yeah,
Peter.
Yeah, I was just joking by saying that a mediocre green deck could still beat Mono White.
Yeah, that's honestly one of the biggest issues with Magic the Gathering and Commander, especially. One of the hardest things for White is that it is very hard to get advantages on mana in White, and it's very hard to get card draw in White. They're fixing it. They're having more artifact. There's a couple new cards in Modern Horizons that are if you are attacked, create a clue token. That's very good because clues will allow you to draw cards even though you need to pay a lot of mana into it.
And if you are listening to this and want to know more about how to improve your white decks and how to shore up some of the weaknesses that white has, you can always check out Magic in Quarantine. MJ, I've been on there recently with Peter on a whiteboarder, and we talk about the weaknesses white has, the strengths it has, how to meet some of those roles, and how to sort of shake some of those preconceptions. But back to the Bears.
Yes. So I think we've talked a lot about bears. We've talked about their identity, what colors they're best in, what their functionality is, and why Iola is the best bear commander.
Why are they important to you specifically?
Okay. Well, bears are one of my favorite animals. I am a huge bear enthusiast. Wildlife is something I care very deeply about. I taught with the Boy Scouts of America for about a summer, and I've been a Boy Scout all my life, and that really helped me solidify my love of nature. And bears are beautiful creatures. I find they are. I'm a very large lad. I'm training to do more powerlifting now that I'm out of quarantine and I can go to gyms again. And I was always a big kid. I was the fat kid that everyone made fun of in elementary school until I started buffing out. And when I started buffing out, there was one time actually when I forgot who it was, one of my exes who compared me to a bear, and I was like, huh, yeah. And it's hard to explain, but bears are large, burly boys that I just vibe with because all they do is they sleep, they eat, and just do them. They are, as the kids would say, based. I love bears. They're just great animals, and I donate to a lot of charities that help that help stop deforestation for for animals. But sorry, I'm stumbling over my words because I didn't expect this question. My bad.
Sorry.
No, it's my fault for not being prepared. My brain go whoop. I donate to a lot of charities to stop deforestation in California because that's where a lot of bears live. I also care very deeply about the degradation of the polar ice caps and what's happening to polar bears, who are probably my favorite bear. My favorite bear is growler bears because if all else fails and polar bears go extinct, growler bears are probably our best way to keep them alive in some vestige.
Is that kind of like a liger?
Ligers are an abomination to man. I'm sorry, liger fans, but God, you look at those things and they look depressed. They look like they want to be put out of their misery.
Hey, as long as you're not talking about Zoids, because my liger zero is awesome.
Okay, that's fair. But sorry, I just love bears. They're large, burly boys who just are adorable. There was actually one time when I was traveling north with my brother, my mother, and my mother's second husband. She had the idea that we could just stop at a bear ranch that was on the side of the road, and that's probably where I really fell in love with bears. I just realized that they're cool animals. They're interesting ecologically, and the roles that they serve in the environment. They're very agile and natural climbers despite their size, which I vibe really well with because I would just always climb trees as a kid despite being a really fat kid. And I've always vibed with bears. My mom has always called me a polar bear because I live in Michigan, like J-Ro, and I'm that asshole who wears flip-flops and shorts during winter.
Yeah.
I just love bears. They're my favorite animal, and they're just cool. And also, and feel free to edit this part out, in the gay community, which I'm a professional gay. I'm freelance currently.
Oh, that is perfectly fine because this happens to be recorded during Pride Month.
Oh, yes. And actually, Jero, in solidarity with me, he is doing my challenge of only playing rainbow decks for the entire month, with the exception of Mono White Monday or Mono Color Monday. I'm doing rainbow decks all month, and I've actually already been brewing a list for the new commander that's coming out, Garth One Eye. I really want to get an altar of him with Wayne and Garth from Wayne's World, but I digress. in the gay community, a bear is how you refer to a large, hairy gay man.
Oh.
I've always been large, and I have a lot of hair on my head. I have very long blonde hair, and I've been called that before, and I'm like, oh, neat. So it's kind of that two facet there that, you know, bears are kind of my animal, you know.
Yeah.
It's great.
Feel
free to cut that out too.
That's okay.
If you don't want it in the podcast.
Oh, that's fine. It's fine. This is one of the rarities, though, where I also have a personal connection to this animal, because it is also my favorite animal. Because I am also relatively large and furry, not a furry, but furry, and not just on the head, unfortunately.
Okay.
That's what comes with being somebody who's of Russo-Polish descent.
Right, we're both large Polish men.
Yes.
Weird.
But so bears are my favorite animal, and I've actually this has actually come up at an interview before, where they asked, "What's your favorite animal?" Because they were looking for personality traits. Bears are my favorite animals because while they are usually perceived as being aggressive, they are territorial. They will take what they care about and they will protect it with everything they have. And that's something that I always valued. That they say, this is where I am, this is and this is what I care about, and you are not about to take that from me. And they're only aggressive in so much as defending what they believe is theirs. They're not going to go out and try to pick a fight, although Iola does pick fights. But they only pick the fights they want to pick. They're not just fighting everything for no apparent reason. They're fighting what they perceive to be threats. And so I always like that. As I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher, college professor. You know, there's a bunch of other job titles I have right now, but teacher, tutor, college professor are the big three. And with those, I am very protective of the students that I teach. And I want to be able to help them and guide them and support them in any way possible. And I very much see myself as bear-like in how sort of aggressively I will protect them.
I really like that, J-Ro. Wow, you just made me feel dumb.
It's okay.
I understand that deeply. I also do a little bit of teaching. I'm only a sophomore in college. As of the next semester, I will be a sophomore in college.
Mm-hmm.
I also did teaching for the Boy Scouts of America for a couple summers, and it's. I agree with your thing about bears, but I like them for different reasons, mainly because they're strong and able to protect what's theirs. So
Mm-hmm.
I like them for the same reason, actually, but I like them for a slightly altered same reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're able to be strong and protect things, which is, well, if I can get personal here, I have been at the hand of violent hatred before for my sexuality. I was on a date with a partner of mine,
Mm-hmm.
and we started getting harassed, and it was I'm a large guy. I lift, and I was able to kind of talk shit at them, get big and like, hey, come over here, come and fight me. Well, they were just hurling slurs at us and threw a rock, and I was able to kind of scare them off, and that's kind of when I realized, like, bears are kind of like, bears had always been my favorite animal, but like when I kind of realized, yeah, they're my shit, because like,
Yeah.
bears are able to be strong and protect their young,
Mm-hmm.
and protect their territory, like J-Ro said, and in that way, I guess they're very vindictive, like I am.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and
they're just.
Well, it wasn't for the same reason, because this was younger, before people started to necessarily identify that way. But when I was in elementary school and early middle school, I was beaten up a lot, and I would fight back. And in first grade, I actually broke a kid's nose.
Shit.
The fourth grader's nose. But yeah,
Wow.
So I'm used to having to fight to protect myself too, although I wasn't in quite the same context.
I mean, yeah, it was the first time that I had like physically protected someone because my again, it's like that personality test thing. My partner is was smaller than I am. He's my ex now. He was much smaller, not as strong as I am. He was just kind of a nerdy dude, and I was able to kind of protect him at that. And I mean, I've gotten in fights before. In 8th grade, I got my rib bruised because I got jumped in the bathroom of my middle school. And in like 10th grade and stuff like that, I gotten in fights with people who just wanted to start shit because that's what high schoolers are. They're just hormonal. But
I was a football player.
it was really when I had a reason to it, a reason to like protect someone, It was it's just bears are that vindictive, protective like they represent that archetypally. They're like the strength of nature and the strength of the self, kind of.
Yeah. And when they fight, it's more for preservation than it is for aggression or to hurt.
And that's kind of I'm currently going to school for I still haven't decided. I don't know if I want to go into teaching or into social work, but that's what the gay community does. We fight for self-preservation and our rights to life. And because there are people who want us to live as second-class citizens, who want us to be labeled as inferiors, people who, I mean, we didn't gain the right to have equal employment up until like literally 1 year ago today. Well, today's not the 14th. Sorry, it's the 13th. So almost a year ago today, we gained the right to equal employment and not to be fired just because of our sexuality. And I think that's also why a lot of gay men identify why bear is also a signifier in the gay community of large men. But bears fight for their preservation, and so has the gay community for the past multiple centuries in Western society.
It's my honor to do anything I can as an ally.
Yeah, J-Ro, as much as I don't like the term ally because of how people use it, you're an ally. And, like, you're an absolute, like, awesome dude.
Thank you.
Like, you are someone that I am happy to call an ally of the gay community.
Thank you. Maybe one of these days I'll have to make a rainbow ally deck, and then we can have allies and bears fighting together.
Actually, I'm planning on putting Tajuru Stalwart in here because it's a green ally that actually synergizes with bears.
Nice.
So,
if you put the what's the thing the thing that turns everything into creatures of the same type, and then you can pay 2 and tap it to make the Maskwood Nexus.
Oh, yes, Vastwood Nexus. That's good.
Because that does go infinite with one of the with a green ally. Turntimber Ranger, I think, is his name.
Yeah, wait, no, yeah, I wasn't thinking of Tajuru Stalwart. I was thinking of Turntimber Ranger, actually. Because that's the one that adds mana, right?
No.
I need to look these cards up. Sorry, everybody.
That's right. But Turntimber Ranger, I think, is the one that makes 2 wolves when it comes in. And if you can turn the wolves into allies, they will go infinite.
Okay, gotcha. Was it? No, it wasn't Tajuru Stalwart. I'm sorry, I need to figure out what card I was looking at. Okay, so then go to Rules Text, Ally. No, wait, no, Creature Type. There we go. Sorry, we can cut this off in post.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. So this Harbaz Druid makes mana?
What'd you call it?
Harbaz Druid, and there's also Beastcaller Savant.
No, that's what I need in this deck. That's the one I'm thinking of, Beastcaller Savant.
Because it has haste.
Yes, it's very good. Oh, and Harbaz Druid, that's what it's called. Harbaz Druid is also good. I just don't think it's good for this deck. Though, Sylvan Advocate is also really good.
It's an ally and an advocate. That works.
Land creatures. I misread that.
Okay.
Bad. But Yeah, the bears are they're just really good. I love bears. They're archetypal and they're protective and they're just fun as hell to play. I build my bear decks differently. I make them focused on a lot of mana and card draw stuff, so that I can get as many bears as possible. I think, Jero, were you in the game where where someone had a Vidalcan Ori out, and I was just playing my bears with Flash, and every time someone would play a creature, I would make my creatures eat them?
No, I do know of different cards and that can do that, but no, I was not in that game.
There was a game where every time someone would just play a creature, I would just as a response, put in like my Ashcoat Bear onto the field, then have my giant indestructible Iola, because I play with the Tyrite Sanctum, which can make your commander an indestructible god. I play with Tyrite Sanctum in my deck.
Yeah, you might as well have a bear god, right?
Indestructible giant bears eat other creatures every time they get played.
Well, yeah, if you're gonna have a queen among bears, you might as well make her a bear god, right?
Exactly. She is. I haven't told everyone the name of what I call my bear deck. One of my favorite things is I love to name decks. For example, my 5-color dragon decks. My 5-color dragon deck. I'm not going to say the real name of it, but I am going to call it say the other name of it. I call it Gay Dragons, of course. Or my treasure deck, which is the real treasure was the treasure we made along the way. Or my shrine deck, because it's Sanctum of All, is the commander. It's non-denominational church.
Yeah, that works.
This deck is called the Song of My People.
Mm-hmm.
And I also call it Iola the Queen among Hunky Men. Mm-hmm. But I like the Song of My People as a much better title.
As long as you're not referencing the old meme of I shall sing you the song of my people. La 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 la.
No, yeah, but Magic the Gathering has always been important to me, and bears are probably some of the best creatures in Magic. So yeah, Magic is and while we're still on the topic of gay, Magic the Gathering also was really helped me actually come out just because of my playgroup. Awesome. So yeah, Magic the Gathering is great. It's how you meet great people, meet new people. It's how I've met my ex, so you don't meet the best people on it, but hey.
I mean, you meet good people, and maybe sometimes later you find out that they're different from how you expected at the beginning, but that happens.
Yeah, like how you go to Central Michigan University.
Yeah? Is that a problem?
Yeah. Yeah, I go to Western.
I went to Central, by the way. I graduated there
I know,
about 9 years ago now.
Yeah, you're tainted. You're tainted. You have that. You have a degree from there. Yeah. We can never be friends, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
I also presented at a conference at Western.
Okay, but well, hey, at least your parents went to U of M. I'm a U of M family as well.
Yep. I also went to Western, or not Western, Wayne. So it was a different.
Oh. Okay. But yeah. Are there any other states besides Michigan that have this kind of rivalry between colleges?
I'm talking about Michigan State, Central Western, which?
Like both of those, because those are two of the biggest college rivalries in the state, like the United States.
Well, I'm not sure Central Western's up there.
Yeah, Central Western is not that big in all honesty, but we've got Michigan and Michigan State. That's like the college rivalry. Like it's up there with Harvard and Yale.
Yeah. Harvard and Yale's whose parents have more money, I guess. But okay, whatever.
But yeah, I like bears. Bears are awesome. I like to make my bear decks fun and cool. And they've always been an important animal to me. So, yeah, that was any other questions you have about bears, J-Ro?
It's awesome.
I can tell you what my favorite bear is.
It's awesome. I love bears as well. So this has been the Quote of Arms podcast, and people can find you at.
You can find me on Instagram at Z Frankhauser. Let me just make sure that that is my username on Instagram. Yes, it is. Sorry, I recently got hacked and had to change Instagram accounts, but my name is Z _ Frankhauser. So that's FRANKHAU. I'll be gym selfies because I've been going back to the gym.
Nice.
So yeah, and you can also find me on JRose streams
at twitch.tv/unsummoned skull. All right, thank you.